Okay, so today I'm going to share with you the top 2 strategies that I used to get started in real estate with no money down way back in the 1990s. The great news is these strategies are still very effective in today's market. Hi, I'm Brock Collins, and I've been a full-time real estate investor for the past 14 years. Now, I've been involved in both really good markets and really bad markets and everything in between. And these same no money down strategies that I'm going to share with you today have worked very successfully when the market's up and when it's down. So over the next 3 days, I'm going to share with you 3 different profit centers that you can use to profit in real estate, and I'm going to show you how to use no money down strategies on each exit strategy. So if that sounds good, let's get started.
You know, most real estate investors never get started because everyone faces the same problems. The biggest problem we all face is, where do I get the money? So if you're like me, you may be asking yourself, hey, where do I get the money to buy this house? How do I come up with the down payment money? How do I get the fix-up and the repair costs if I want to flip a house? If I don't have the money, where does this all come from? Well, for me, it all started over a decade ago, and I was passionate about making money in real estate. However, I faced the same problems as maybe you do today. I didn't have the money, and I didn't know where to get it. I was just a broke house painter who worked paycheck to paycheck, and the only way for me to make money in real estate was to become an expert in no money down deals. And if I didn't become an expert, I would have missed out on making money with all of these properties. So what I did is I broke real estate investing down to 3 categories. Number 1 is wholesaling houses for quick cash. Number 2 is fixing and flipping houses for profit. And number 3 is retiring rich with tiny income properties. So today we're going to talk about how to get started in real estate by wholesaling houses. Some say this is the easiest barrier of entry to get into real estate investing. So before I can show you some real case studies here in just a minute of what wholesaling houses is and to walk you through this strategy, you've got to first know what wholesaling houses is, okay? So wholesaling houses is when you put a property under contract at a big discount and then you flip or assign that paperwork to a cash buyer who will step in and pay more than you've agreed to pay. I'll show you how this works in a minute. Now, the 2 most popular ways to wholesale houses is number 1, to assign the purchase agreement, and I'm going to walk you through a case study to show you how that worked. And number 2 is to do a double closing. We'll walk through a case study of that strategy as well. So I'm going to show you a real property that I wholesaled and how to profit by assigning the purchase agreement, making this a 100% no money down deal. Okay, so now we're going to talk about wholesaling houses using an assignment strategy. So to assign your contract for profit. Okay, so before you can assign a contract or profit in real estate, you first have to know how to get motivated sellers to call you. So I'm going to let you in on a little secret that I do that makes my phone ring all the time. Here it is. I get a list of motivated seller leads in my area, and I send out a secret thing to them. I'm going to show you in just a minute. And the good news for you is the same list that I use in my area is available in every city, USA, okay? So that's the great thing. But here's the thing. You've got to get your phone to ring so you can make lots of offers. And the more offers you make, the more money you make. That's how it works. So when I get this list, what I do is I send them this. This is my ugly yellow postcard. And in fact, I don't even touch this thing. I have a service send it out for me. You can do the same thing. You never have to put on a stamp. You never have to lick an envelope. You never have to address one of these. It's all done for you, okay? So I use this ugly yellow postcard, and here's the magic behind it. It's really basic. It's really ugly, and here's the gist of it. Number 1, this shows up at a seller's property who's been on one of these lists that target them as most likely motivated sellers, and they most likely have big equity in their properties. That's a good mix to have, okay? So when it shows up on their mailbox, it says this. Listen, you can sell your house quickly for cash. Now follow me here. And you can sell in as-is condition. Okay, that's important because these motivated sellers, that's one of their motivating factors is they want to sell in as-is condition. So let me walk you through a property that I wholesaled, and I want to show you how it worked from start to finish, okay? This here was a junker property, okay? This seller had actually owned lots of rental property over the years, had paid them off, and had just generated lots of cash flow from them. However, as you can see from this junker property, they lived nicely on this cash flow because they never put any money back in the property to keep it up. I mean, take a look at this. Here you go. You got original windows. You got asbestos siding. The only thing good on this property was the roof, just keeping the water out, right? So this seller got one of my mailings and contacted me and asked me to make an offer. So I did my due diligence and I made her an offer. And this property was worth about $65,000. I made this seller an offer for $32,000. Now, the seller thought about it for a little bit and then said, you know what, I'll take your price if I can sell as is. And I said, that's absolutely just fine. Okay, so now I've got a contract to buy this property at a really big discount. So now what I'm looking to do, since I don't have the money to close this deal at this point, what I'm looking to do is to wholesale this property for a profit. So remember, I told you this was worth about $65,000, and I was looking to just get anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 profit on this deal. So I put it out there, and I put an ad on Craigslist. I let some other people in the area that I knew bought houses, and I told them, listen, I got this property. I'm willing to sell it for $40,000 if you can close fast. And one of the investors knew exactly where it was, and they knew exactly what they thought it was worth, which was way more, and they agreed to buy the property from me for $40,000. So I wholesaled this property to them for an $8,000 profit. Now, results aren't typical, and I'm not making income claims here. I just want to show you how to wholesale a property out using these strategies. So here's the best part about this. I only had about 1, maybe 2 hours of time tied up into this deal to generate this. Now, from talking with the seller, showing up and meeting the buyer, you know, and wholesaling this property. So it's a pretty straightforward process, but again, it all started with the ugly yellow postcard that I sent to my targeted list, okay? So literally, that's how it works. Let me show you the process so you can visualize this in your mind. So let me show you a process of how to assign a contract. So you've got this property right here, and you've talked with the seller and you've negotiated a big discount. The reason you've negotiated a big discount is, 1, the seller has big equity, and 2, they have big motivation. For some reason, they want to sell the house fast and in as-is condition. Okay, so you've got a purchase and sale agreement signed to buy this property for $32,000, and now you have equitable interest in the property. So now, if you'd like to close on this and use some kind of source to buy it, that's fine. You've got a great deal already. If you want to wholesale this for profit, you can do that as well. So what happens is you let the cash buyers in your area know that you've got this property and you're willing to sell it quickly to the first person who can close fast, and you'd like to have $40,000. Cash buyer raises their hand and says, hey, I know that thing's probably worth $60,000 to $70,000. I want it. I'll close on it. So what you do next is, if you want to assign this, you just take a 1-page agreement and you assign your rights from the purchase and sale agreement, which would transfer to the cash buyer. Now, in this case, you agreed to pay Sam Seller, in this case, $32,000, and this cash buyer has agreed to pay you $40,000. And so you make the profit on an assignment agreement of the difference in between what you've agreed to pay and what they've agreed to pay. So in this example, it's $8,000, okay? Now the great news is, now what happens is, these agreements are taken to an opened escrow. The cash buyer will bring $40,000 to closing. $32,000 of it will go to Sam Seller and pay the agreement that was originally started with them, and the difference of the $8,000 in this example would go to you. So you would collect your assignment fee at closing. Now here's the thing: you don't even have to show up to closing if you don't want. The title company can mail you your check, and so that's how simple this really can be. Now remember, we talked about there's 2 popular ways to wholesale houses and make them no money down deals, okay? So we just showed and talked about how to assign a purchase agreement, and now we're going to talk about doing a double closing. A lot of time, what makes the difference on why you do one or the other, on double closing deals that have a bigger profit, more than likely I like to do double closings. I'll tell you more about that, why, in a little bit. So if you've been on one of my live events recently, you may have seen this example right here. This example was a no money down deal and no credit needed. Okay, it was a same day flip. This seller, of course, called me because they received, you guessed it, the ugly yellow postcard. This property was actually paid off. The seller had inherited this property and lived in it by himself, and he decided he just wanted to move out of the area. And so we talked a little bit, and he thought it was worth way more than I was willing to pay. And I told him, try every strategy you can, and if you're not successful, this is what I'd be willing to pay you. So you can put it in your back pocket and you can think about it. And if your situation changes in the future, give me a call. Well, guess what? That seller gave me a call, okay? And we agreed on a purchase price of $61,000. Now, this property was worth considerably more. It needed some fix-up and cleanup, and he just wanted to sell it in as-is condition. So I agreed to a purchase and sale agreement with the seller to pay $61,000. This is called, in this example, the A to B closing between me and the original seller. Now, I let a couple cash buyers and investors know that I'd be willing to sell this property in as-is condition for $80,000. And that's how much I wanted for it. I had a cash buyer make me an offer that he would like to buy this property, and he would pay is $76,000. Okay, so I thought about it. 76,000 is pretty close to 80, and there's a pretty good spread in between. And I'm not going to touch this property, fix it up, or anything. I'm going to wholesale it for a big chunk of cash. Okay, so I agreed. So I met with this cash buyer, and I signed a brand new purchase and sale agreement. But this time, it would be you as the seller and the cash buyer as the buyer, and the purchase price would be the price you've agreed to sell this property. This is known as the B to C agreement, or the second closing. So here's how this works. This cash buyer told me when we went to sign this purchase and sale agreement for $76,000 that he'd buy it, and I told him it had to be a cash deal, and he agreed to that. And he said his only condition was that we close at his attorney's office. Now, these attorneys in this office here are one of the most premier attorney groups in our area. And so I told him, listen, just tell your attorney that we're going to do a double closing, and since you're paying cash, and go ahead and just put your money in escrow in the morning, and I'm going to close the A to B with those funds, and then 15 minutes later, we can come into the next room, I'll sign the paperwork over to you, and we'll do a double closing. And because this was done at his attorney's office, it could have been done at any title company, any neutral title company. He wanted it at his attorney's office, which was fine. And so he was perfectly fine with that. So here's how it worked. Okay, so the day of closing, what happens is the cash buyer of the B2C, the investor, brought in $76,000 into escrow into his attorney's office that morning. Okay, now the original seller met me there at 1 p.m. in the afternoon to close the initial deal. Now, I agreed to pay him $61,000, right? And so I used the cash buyer's funds that was in escrow at the title company to close the A to B. So the same seller got his $61,000 minus closing cost at 1 o'clock. And then 15 minutes later, the cash buyer, the investor, met me there at the attorney's office in the next room. I signed the paperwork over to them so that they now own the property, and we closed the B2C still using the cash buyer's funds that they brought in that morning. So I walked out with a check for $14,213.50. Now, results aren't typical, and every deal is different, and so I can't make any income claims, but this was a true double close. Now, it was a no money down deal, no credit needed, and it was a win-win for everybody. Okay? Now, here's the copy of the settlement that shows balance due to seller, which was me in this case, for $14,213.50. And the earnest money here, if you look at that, it's zero. And the attorneys were just fine that there was zero earnest money in the deal. 9 out of 10 times, I'll throw $10 on the table, make it everyone happy to put some earnest money in there on these cash deals, working directly with owners. If this was an MLS deal, it'd be a little bit different, but I was dealing directly with sellers here and directly with an in-party buyer. So that's how this worked out. It was a 100% no money down deal. So wholesaling houses, here's the 3 steps. As we talked about, number 1, find motivated sellers with big equities. You can accomplish this in many different ways. One of the ways that I choose that is the absolute best for me and I've had the most success with is mailing tiny little ugly postcards to my targeted list that I use, and these same lists are available in your area as well. Okay. Now, next what you do is you control the property. You agree to a purchase and sale agreement at a big discount. Okay. And once you do that is you decide how you want to exit out with a no money down strategy. You can either flip the agreement by assigning it to a cash buyer who will step in your place, or you can do a double closing, still again working with a cash buyer. So this is 2 strategies on how to wholesale houses with no money down strategies. This wholesaling houses is how most real estate investors get started flipping houses. It's like a stepping stone to the fix and flip or the retire rich with real estate, okay? So if you've already wholesaled houses, congratulations. We've got good things coming tomorrow and the next day. Some more strategies with flipping and tiny income properties. So for a limited time, I'm opening up Flipping Houses Live to new members. So if you'd like to know how to wholesale houses for profit, how to fix and flip real estate, and how to retire rich with real estate with no money down strategies, join now. It's real simple. Just click the link under this video to learn more about getting instant access to the video training courses and the opportunity for you to get live one-on-one coaching for real estate investing.
So you just saw 2 strategies on how to wholesale houses with no money down, and believe me, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Okay, so let's talk about tomorrow. Be sure to check your email box for video number 2. I'm going to send it to you first thing in the morning, okay? Now, the other thing you may want to do is you may want to okay my email address just to make sure it doesn't get caught in any filters, because believe me, you don't want to miss what I've got waiting for you tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to talk about fixing and flipping houses and 2 no money down strategies you can use starting tomorrow. So don't miss it. Check your email box so we can get started. Okay, so that's it for today. Remember, in the video training tomorrow, you're going to discover how to flip houses with the top 2 no money down strategies that I'm using in today's market, and you can use them as well, okay? So you're going to know by the end of the training tomorrow how to flip houses with fix and flips and do them like a boss. See you tomorrow.